Greetings, fellow adventurers. I'm Max with Peak D&D.
And I'm Ben. Welcome to the Peak.
We're here in the Rocky Mountains helping you elevate your game in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons and life.
In this episode of Peaked Interests, we're wrapping up our 101 series by sharing our secrets to always making a character you love.
So let's roll some initiative and get to it.
This video is the most important one we've ever made.
Way to oversell it.
Was it too serious? I don't know. I mean, it is really hard to have fun playing Dungeons & Dragons if you don't love your character.
But you're right. It doesn't matter if you're playing 5th edition or 1st. Loving the character you get to play with goes a long way to having fun around the table.
As long as it's not 4th. Not to get too cheesy here, but your relationship with your character is kind of intimate. I mean, you're going to be spending tens, if not hundreds of hours with this person for anywhere from months to years. That's longer than most relationships I've ever had in my life.
And since Dungeons & Dragons is a game, and the whole point of playing games is to have fun, we're going to talk to you about how to make a character you love.
All the videos that Max and I have made in this 101 series up until now have really all been leading to this one. Making a character you love can only happen if you understand all the ingredients that go into it.
No, that was the right word to choose, Ben. Good job. Because the best way to ensure that you have a character you love is by starting with your class.
In our previous videos in the 101 series, we compared the classes in Dungeons & Dragons to food items. So if you'd like to reheat those leftovers and check those out, you can do that right here and right here. And we also have...
Why, hello there. It's me, Asmodeus, Lord of the Ninth, Prince of all Devilkind, and other titles redacted. And thanks to a special arrangement with Peak D&D, I'm here to tell you about how I decompress after a long day of pulling the souls of mortals from their gasping husks. I do it with Coco. Coco's Hollow, that is, my favorite cosplayer and streamer on Twitch. Join her every Thursday through Sunday, 8 to midnight. It's a devilish good time. So commands the mighty Asmodeus. I know I'll be watching.
Him again? Starting with class is the Peak D&D way. I mean, are you surprised? Look at this guy, he oozes class. The way we see it, your class is the biggest decision you get to make. It's what's going to dictate how you're going to play the game, the sorts of things you'll be able to do on your turn.
Just as the only way to live a happy life is to live happy days, the only way to have fun playing Dungeons & Dragons is to make a character that's fun to play, i.e. able to do fun things.
Start with your class. Pick the one that sounds the most fun. Go from there.
Once you know what class you're going to be, it's going to be a lot easier to make all your other choices, like where to put your stats.
Man, you're killing these segues today. Hot damn! After class, come stats.
Now, there are many ways to generate the numbers for your ability scores. The Player's Handbook offers a few: point buy, standard array, or rolling 4d6 and dropping the lowest number, and then adding the remaining 3 together is a fairly common one. But you do that 6 times, and then you've got your 6 ability scores.
Unless you'd rather take a page out of our book.
And do.
Nick uses his superhero grid. He basically does what Ben just told you, but then has you do that 6 more times.
So this gives you a 6x6 grid with 36 numbers in total. Then you get to choose whichever vertical, horizontal, or diagonal line
Bingo!
You like best for your stats.
Actually, Nick lets you do that whole process 3 times. So if you don't like any of the lines in your first grid, you can scrap it and roll a second. And if you don't like any of your lines in that second, you can scrap it and roll a third.
But you're stuck with that third one no matter the results, because there's no take back seats.
Can't triple stamp a double stamp.
But honestly, your DM is going to tell you what method they want you to use to come up with your stats. So really, after you choose your class, talk to your DM.
But hey, If you think Nick's superhero grid sounds pretty groovy, send your DM a link to the video and let them check it out. Maybe they will too.
Once you've got your numbers, it's time to assign them to your different abilities.
There's a handy chart on page 45 of the player's handbook that lists each class and its most important ability. While not perfect, it's a really good start.
And if you're new to the game and need a refresher on those 6 ability scores, what they mean and what they do, check out this video that we made. It'll clear up a lot.
Here we'd like to take a moment for a quick aside. If this is your first time ever playing Dungeons & Dragons, awesome. Consider making a fighter.
Look, this game is complicated and confusing enough to begin with. There's a lot of numbers and vocabulary that you're going to encounter around the table, and the easiest way to learn, we think, is by starting with a fighter.
I mean, who doesn't love pasta? Fighters are easy and fun. They give you a chance to learn the basics of how a majority of D&D works, and all but guarantee you'll be in the middle of the action. Keep it simple.
It's like if you've ever learned to play an instrument before, there's a reason that you start out with individual notes and learning scales first. You get those down, and you'll have the foundations to play the more complicated stuff.
Now, once you've got your class all picked out and the numbers for your ability scores, it's time to assign them.
And the best way to do that is to think about what you want your character to be good at. If you want to talk good and stuff, put a higher number in charisma.
You want to be sneaky and shoot a bunch of arrows? That's a high dexterity you want.
If you're at a loss and don't know where to put any of your numbers, put your highest one or two, depending, in the primary abilities for your class on that list on page 45, and always put the next highest in Constitution.
You can never go wrong with more hit points.
Constitution. After you've got your ability scores set, it's time to choose a race. Again, this is a good time to check in with your DM about the specific rules you're going to be using in your campaigns.
Yeah, with the publication of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, Wizards of the Coast did some pretty interesting things with race. Interesting things we are not going to cover.
And if you're interested in learning more about the core races from the Player's Handbook, then you can click right here and check out our video on that.
Wow, you really are the pitch one, aren't you? Now me. I like to play my D&D race card to give me a leg up and get some cool bonus features.
You've always been a MinMaxer, I suppose.
Yeah, that's right. I like to make badass characters, and I'd appreciate it if you didn't shame me for the way I like to play this game. My name is Max.
As in MinMax. Okay. Wow, Oscar Brown and Al Wilson getting a little civil rights-y up in here.
We're talking about race.
Well, all things being equal rights, whether you're like Max and you make your choice based on ability modifiers or traits, or you've got a character concept way back in the back of your head like some halfling monk or a dwarven warlock of your dreams, you've got to pick a race at some point in the game.
Once you've done that, it's time to pick your background. Now, there are a lot of backgrounds out there, so again, this is going to depend on your DM and what books and sources you're playing with.
Backgrounds are one of my favorite parts of character creation. I mean, I really like the storytelling and creative aspect of thinking about who my character was up until now.
That's basically what your background in D&D is. It's like the 1 or 2 word snapshot of what your character's situation was like before you came along and plucked them out of their ordinary life.
How did you grow up? Who were your parents? What was your day job? What did you spend your time doing? The background you choose can help answer some of these important questions.
It's also where your personality trait, ideal, bond, and flaw are found, or at least can be.
Now, on the right side of your character sheet, there's a box for each of the 4 things that Max mentioned. Every background in the Player's Handbook, starting on page 127, provides a randomized list for each of these. You can roll a D whatever it is and generate them.
Or use the ones they provide as a jumping off point and come up with your own. Again, the most important thing is choosing the ones that sound like the most fun.
So, which one in those 4 lists looks like the most fun? Which goes along with the story of your character, the given circumstances of their upbringing?
Such a thespian.
Hey, now don't you shame me for the way that I make my characters, because I don't.
Okay. Ben, I love you. I love the way you make characters.
Thank you.
By all means, if you have a concept for a character that's in your head already that you're working off of, go with that. I like to take a look at the skill proficiencies for each of the backgrounds and see which align with what I want my character to be good at.
Well, as a MinMaxer, you probably would. We've got a much more in-depth video about the backgrounds in the works, so make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for that.
After backgrounds, you've only got a few more choices to make, and those are about stuff.
Every class and every background has a section titled Equipment. This is the actual stuff your character starts out with.
Equipment for your class is typically weapons and armor. Gear from your background is usually non-combat oriented.
And you get both. So write down whichever of the 4 options you choose from your class and whatever it says for your background. Then talk to your DM.
It's their call. Depending on how and where your game starts, you may be playing under some specific circumstances that alter what it says in the book. Remember, it's the DM's world. You're just playing in it.
And write down what you have. Cause if it ain't on your sheet, you're trying to cheat.
Things I like to make sure all of my characters have: a backpack, rope, a torch or 2, unless they can see in the dark, and something to write with and on.
Now I like to make sure I've got a set of all the tools and kits that I'm proficient with, provided I can afford them.
Good call, good call. When it comes to weapons, I like to make sure I've got 1 melee and 1 ranged option. That way, I don't have to be right next to something in order to hit it.
Oh, because that is just the worst. When all you've got is a great sword and there's a flock of harpies flying just out of range and you're being rained upon with arrows like death from above, it's just off.
Yeah, we've all been there.
But after that, all that's really left would be choosing your spells, provided you're playing a class that has them.
The best way to do that is to look over your spell list, read all the descriptions, and again, choose the ones that sound like the most fun.
While writing down the page number. Cantrips can be a great substitute for a ranged weapon, Eldritch Blast, so there's something to keep in mind.
And if you're playing one of the store-bought dessert classes, it's worth thinking about picking spells that are less situational and more general, because your spell slots ain't worth shit unless you use them.
And those are our secrets to always making a character you're gonna love.
Hey, thanks for sticking around and hanging out with us today.
Hopefully, we piqued your interests.
Gave you something to help you elevate your game.
Let us know in the comments below if you've got any secrets about character creation that you want to share with the group.
Is there a topic you'd like us to cover? Cast send it.
Because there's an email link in the description below.
Like what we're doing here? Roll to hit that subscribe button. Every subscriber we get is another experience point that brings our channel closer to leveling up.
And make sure to drop the warnings around the notification bell so you don't get skipped and miss your turn.
Check back every Wednesday and Saturday for more Dungeons & Dragons content.
Help the channel by casting Big B's thumbs up and liking this video. That works too. But until then, keep on climbing.
Catch you next time, up here at the Peak.
Sound right, boy.
It's fun. It's fun. We have fun here. We have fun here at Peak D&D.
Yeah, so much fun. Force fun.
Fey touch.
I have
rail.
not looked.
Goes in the reel. No, you're fine. All right, let's do it. All the videos that Max and I have. Sorry. I'm sweating. All the videos that Max and I. Nope.
You may be playing under some very specific serpentine
babu.
Serpentances.
Serpentine babu.
I love serpentances.
Serpents.